Hi, this is Linda Hnatow, care coordinator at Friends Life Care, and I wanted to talk to you a little bit about dehydration today and a little bit about hydration. Summer's gone. Man, was it a hot summer, right? When the temperature is high, maybe we think, oh, it's hot. I'm gonna have something to drink. It'll make me feel a little cooler, make me feel better. I want to keep hydrated and all that. But it's really hydration is something we should think about year round. Now the temperature is starting to go in the opposite direction. It's starting to get cooler. Maybe we're turning our heat on in our houses, and that tends to dry out our house, and it also dries us out. So I'm going to talk first, before I get into dehydration, about hydration and why it's important to our health and our well-being. So humans are made up of a lot of water. Even bones are a quarter water. When we're first born, we have about 80% of our body is water. And then by the time we're kids, about 65% of our body is water. When we're, growing up, say preteen to about 50 years old, women are going to be about 56% water and men about 59% water. And then when we're over the age of 65, the water level in our body goes down even more. Women at 47, men at 56. So you see this kind of drop in water throughout our life. And actually these are averages. It's going to be different for different people, depending on a lot of different things. For example, fatty tissue contains less water than muscle, which is why you see less water in women. And also other body types can, depending on how active you are, et cetera, can change the amount of water you have in your body. So then where is all this water that's in our bodies? So actually, in general, so this is a human cheek cell. It's kind of a cool pattern and almost looks like it's a leaf or something, since right now it's fall when I'm recording this. About 2/3 of our body's water is found within the cells of our body, and 1/3 is outside. And this fluid moves back and forth. So it doesn't just all stay inside or outside. It's moving back and forth depending on what's going on with our bodies and electrolyte levels and all that kind of stuff. When it comes to our organs, you see that the brain, kidneys are probably the highest in the amount of water that they have in them. Which is why, when we start to get dehydrated, this is going to impact the brain the most or significantly. And so when we lose water, we could end up being confused or even delirious. You think about those movies where the guy's walking across the desert and he's hallucinating and he's all confused as to which direction he should go and all that. And that's because the dehydration is impacting his brain. But you can see again, bones, about a quarter of them is water, and teeth has the least amount of water because they're really just solid. They're solid bone essentially. So what are our functions of all this fluid that we have in our body? Well, water in our body serves a number of roles. It works in transport of oxygen and nutrients through the blood, and the blood's about 90% water. It also helps to eliminate, so it'll transport the waste out of our bodies. Water helps with temperature regulation. Think about sweating, right? Water can also help with metabolism and keeping metabolism efficient. So hydrated muscles work more efficiently. You get more energy when you're hydrated. When you're dehydrated, your energy level goes down, your performance goes down, you're going to feel a little sluggish. And actually, it can affect your mood. You can have a negative reaction to dehydration to your mood. Another part of metabolism is that fluids are absorbed or reabsorbed by different parts of our body. In particular, the large intestine will reabsorb or absorb fluids out of the fecal matter within it. So if you're dehydrated, it's going to pull as much water as it can out of the fecal matter, and that's going to lead to constipation. So kidneys also will reabsorb, they filter and they eliminate water. They end up sending that final product that they have into the bladder as urine for elimination. Our skin is about 2/3 to 3/4 water. Water is going to help the skin remain plump, less wrinkles, less blemishes, more elastic. And water also will help to remove toxins from the skin, mainly through sweat. Water acts as a cushion in our body. It cushions our brain and spinal cord. It also lubricates our joints. And water helps with digestion. So starting right at the beginning in our mouth, saliva is made up of the majority water, but it's going to start the digestive process. Mucus also has a lot of water in it. Water will help keep our stomach acid in check. And I mentioned the large intestine before, so it's going to help the large intestine function well in pulling water out if the fluid level is maintained where it should be. Water can actually help decrease appetite. So if you're trying to lose weight, having a glass of water before meals can be helpful. It kind of fills you up a little bit. And also, if you feel thirsty, if you think you're hungry, it might actually be thirsty because it's hard to differentiate between those two sensations. So have a glass of water instead of trying to eat something to see if that satisfies that idea that that you're hungry instead of thirsty. So how much water should we be drinking? Well, the National Academies of Science, Engineering, and Medicine says that women should be having about 11.5 cups of water per day, and men should have about 15.5 cups of water per day. And please don't fall off your chair as you're watching this, because that's total food and beverages, total intake. So a good rule of thumb is the 8x8 rule. So 8 cups that are 8 ounces each is a good rule of thumb. Remember that we probably lose about 2 to 3 liters of water per day, just in our, everyday functions. So breathing, urinating, bowel movements, sweating. We lose about 2 to 3 liters, which is it's over half a gallon. So it's important for us to replenish those fluids. It's also going to depend on how much you drink. Should depend on things like how active are you, how hot is the weather, those kinds of things. Sometimes things like your diet, like do you eat a lot of spicy foods, a lot of salty foods, a lot of sugary foods, a lot of caffeine fluids. Your environment, is your house dry? Or are you, I think about when you travel, sometimes you start to be in a dry car or dry, airport or bus station, train station, whatever. Also, what's your health? If you have a fever, you're going to sweat, you're going to lose water. If you're vomiting or have diarrhea, you're losing fluids. Certain medications are going to cause you to lose fluids. So you have to drink more if you're doing taking a diuretic or you're not feeling well. So, what is dehydration actually? We talked about hydration, but what is dehydration? Well, that means that more is going out than coming in. So you don't have enough water in your body. Usually this is caused by not drinking enough, but if you're sick, like I mentioned, you have diarrhea or you're vomiting, you have excess urination, either from a disease process or from medications. If you're sweating a lot, if you have a fever, it's all going to lead to dehydration. If somebody has burns over a large part of their body, they are going to become dehydrated very quickly because they no longer have skin that protects the body and prevents fluid loss. So even if you lose a little bit of fluid, as little as 1.5% of your body's water, you can start to see symptoms. Part of this is because of the function of fluids, but also it's going to throw off the balance of your electrolytes. Electrolytes are minerals like sodium or potassium. Remember, if you're dehydrated, those are going to be concentrated and they're not going to be in the ideal range, and they can cause some serious problems. That old adage that if you're thirsty, you're already dehydrated is true. And that dehydration can cause things like headaches and fatigue and dizziness. And we'll see that it can cause even more serious things. It can even lead to a life-threatening illness. Think of something like heat stroke. Again, that person out in the desert is dehydrated and they end up with heat stroke. And that can be life-threatening. We don't drink enough, usually because maybe we forget to drink, like how many glasses did I have today? I forgot. Or maybe you don't like water, so you just don't drink. Maybe you have a lack of thirst. As you get older, your thirst sensation isn't very good, and so you just don't feel thirsty, so you don't drink anything. Maybe there's no water available. You're, binging Netflix. You're on your couch. You don't want to get up go over to the sink, so you just don't drink anything. Right? It's not there. Maybe you don't want to go to the bathroom as often. For a number of reasons. So let's then talk a little bit about, as you age, dehydration becomes more common. And that's because you're losing overall, as you age, you have less body water. So between the ages of 20 and 80, you have a decrease in body water of about 15%. And then also, there are other things that can increase your risk for dehydration as you age. I mentioned the thirst sensation is not as good as you get older. Also, your kidneys are not as efficient as retaining water and concentrating urine. So also older people have a tendency to have different illnesses, things like diabetes or kidney disease, or they may be taking some medications like diuretics or laxatives that can increase risk for dehydration. Other things that may cause you to not want to drink as much. For example, maybe you just have a sore throat and it hurts when you swallow, right? Mobility might be a problem. So you have a hard time getting around, so you don't make that trip to the kitchen to get a glass of water, or you don't want to go to the bathroom as often because of your mobility issues. Incontinence might be the reason why you don't want to drink too much. People who have cognitive impairment tend to not drink as much. They just forget. They forget to drink. But dehydration is really, again, common, and it's actually a frequent cause of hospitalizations in older adults. It's one of the top 10 most frequent diagnoses responsible for hospitalizations in the US. So it's something we definitely want to keep an eye on. So what are the signs of dehydration? Well, they The signs and symptoms do vary, but I will tell you that severe dehydration, like I kind of touched on, is a medical emergency. So that's, you don't want to get to that point. Usually the first sign of dehydration is thirst. That's usually the first thing you feel. So if you lose about 1% of your body water, your body can compensate within the first 24 hours. So if you start drinking again, and then you should be just fine. The problem is if you don't, so you continue to not drink, then you're going to have things like dizziness and weakness. Your mouth is going to be dry. You may have headaches. You're having a harder time focusing. You may be more tired. Your skin is dry and warm. You might have muscle cramps even. As the dehydration continues, you see the problem with these, though, is you can see that it's a symptom of a lot of different things. And so you may not even realize that you were dehydrated, right? But as your dehydration continues, the symptoms are become more serious. So, less urination, less sweat. Your urine becomes darker. So this color picture over here shows you that these lighter colors are hydrated, the color of urine when you are hydrated. So it's kind of a lemonade-y kind of color. And then as it starts to get darker along this scale, you see that, these are signs that you're dehydrated, especially, when you start getting down into off of the yellows and stuff. You may see that when you're getting into these dehydrated states that your heart rate is higher because your blood pressure is lower. You have less fluid in your cardiovascular system, and your heart is trying to compensate by beating faster. Your skin may lack elasticity. So you're going to have more headaches, maybe some nausea, and definitely a lot less energy. And then as you progress in your dehydration, your mouth is going to be really dry. There'll be no urine production at all. Your breathing is increasing, and this is related to that high heart rate, to your cardiovascular system. Your body's trying to compensate, trying to get more oxygen and nutrients to the rest. So it's increasing breathing. Your mental state could be altered. So you're going to be confused. Skin is going to be cold and clammy. You may actually turn blue because, again, oxygen is being transported by the blood, which is mostly water. And so now you have a lack of oxygen coming in. At this point, just drinking water is not going to be enough. You got to now have some sort of isotonic drink. So in other words, something with salts in it, like, Gatorades and those sports drinks. You're going to need that at this point. So I wanted to show you this little video because I talked about how your skin starts to get, affected by dehydration. And here's a video of me, and I actually had not drank enough when I took this. And so you'll see this pinch test where I'm going to pinch the loose skin on the back of my hand while it's flat. And you'll see how slow it takes for that skin to go back to being flat. And that's telling me that I did not drink enough, that I am dehydrated, in fact. So if you continue to not drink and you have severe dehydration, so more than 4% of your body fluid is gone, you're really going to see things like a nagging headache, sunken eyes even, loss of concentration, irritability, sleeplessness. Your body temperature is going to go up, your respiration is going to go up even more, more delirium, possibly even vision loss. You may experience vomiting or diarrhea, which is going to cause you to lose even more water. So it's really going to become a snowball effect at this point. If you are losing 10% of your body fluid, this is extremely serious. your blood pressure is going to drop a lot. You may pass out. You're going to have tremors and seizures. It could lead to coma and even death. So this is really, this is truly a medical emergency at this point. Now, about 75% of Americans have chronic dehydration, and that can cause some problems too. You may be an increased risk of infections. Particularly, you see this around urinary tract infections. There's going to be maybe some kidney problems. Cognitive function is going to be impaired, if you have chronic dehydration, and coordination could be impaired. So you're going to have problems walking. The other thing too is, skin. I showed you that tenting. Well, it could cause, if you have chronic dehydration, it could cause permanent damage to the skin, and you may end up with seizures at some point. So how do you prevent this? Well, you need to drink more, which is probably easier said than done, right? So I want to give you some strategies to indeed start to drink more, especially if you're not keeping up with that 8 glasses of 8 ounces per day. So here's some strategies. Having a routine is really important. So, you could do things like make sure you're having a big glass of water at every meal. So that's gonna, that if the glass is 8 ounces, you've gotten 3 of the 8 in. So you just have to figure out where you're going to do the other 5. Having a large pre-poured bottle next to you, like when you're watching those Netflix shows, having that there so it's easy, convenient, right there with you. If you need a little motivation, maybe having a pretty reusable water bottle that attracts your eye. If you don't like water, you can always add things to it to make it more palatable for you. For example, you could add something as simple as a slice of lemon or a piece of mint off of your mint plant. Or you could, experiment with different kinds of fruits and vegetables added to your water, cucumbers, dill, all sorts of stuff, right? There's also things you can buy, like Crystal Light comes to mind, where it's not adding sugar, but it is adding some flavor. There's also flavored waters out there, flavored sparkling waters, which are some of my favorites. If you would prefer to drink juice, then maybe mix it with water so that it's half and half. So you're not getting 8 ounces 8 times of all that sugar that's found in juices. If you're having a hard time, like, did I have a drink this, like, how many of those did I fill up already? I'm not sure. I'm tired, I'm focusing on something else, that Netflix maybe. Then maybe track it with the colored rubber bands, so each time you fill up your pretty water bottle, you put a rubber band around it, and that kind of helps you keep it. So that's pretty low tech. There's also apps to track water intake, things like Waterlogged, Daily Water Free, Plant Nanny. There's a whole bunch of apps out there that you can use if you're tech savvy or you so care to do it that way. You probably want to spread that water out throughout the day within reason. A glass in the morning. So if you're having a glass in the morning and then a glass with each meal, so right there you have half of your water that you're supposed to take in, and then sipping it throughout the day. If it's 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, and you realize you didn't have hardly anything to drink all day, and you try and drink a half a gallon of water, probably you're not going to drink it all. And if you do, it's not going to be as effective as if you spread it out throughout the day. You also want to limit caffeine and alcohol. So 3 or 4 cups of coffee, a 1 8-ounce black coffee is about 100 milligrams. So, you want to keep it under 400 milligrams. So other things like sodas are 30, 40 milligrams. Tea is 30 to 50 milligrams. Those energy drinks that I told you, that you should avoid are up to 250 milligrams of caffeine, not to mention, the amount of sugar that's in them. So you also want to limit salt and sugary foods. You also want to, if you're exercising, have a drink before you do your exercises. It's going to help your muscles be more efficient, less chance of cramping of those muscles. And then you also want, if you're doing a long period of exercise, you're out for a walk for an hour, take some water with you and maybe have some water when you get back. If you're feeling hungry, you might actually be feeling thirsty because it's hard to differentiate between hunger and thirst. So have a glass of water and see if that staves off that feeling, then probably you were just thirsty. If you're, again, not thrilled with water, you can augment those 8 cups of 8 ounces with things like soups. So that's a great way to increase the amount of fluids you're taking in. Maybe have a soup for one of your meals during the day. Fruits and veggies, right? And there's different ways you can incorporate those into your day besides just at meals. Fruit smoothies, veggie smoothies, all that kind of stuff. So here's some foods that are rich in water. And you see there's quite a variety. I mean, fruits have a lot of water in them. These vegetables are high in water. I mentioned soups before, but milk, a glass of milk in the morning or in the evening if you prefer. Yogurt is high in water, ice cream, Jell-O, protein drinks, that can be helpful. Also herbal teas, there's all sorts of herbal teas out there. Sports drinks, cautionary, watch how much sodium is in them. If you're, if you need to watch sodium in particular, how much sugar is in some of those sports drinks. And I mentioned energy drinks being about 200 and up to 250 milligrams of caffeine. So they're, if you are going to have one, don't rely on that as your fluid intake, right? And sometimes they have a lot of sugar in them too. So there's a lot of different ways, but, make hydration an all-day event. So I love some of these pictures when you think about things you can add to your water to flavor them, but they also look really pretty too. And you can be creative and try different things on different days, even maybe to introduce some different fruits that you wouldn't normally try into your water to see how you like them. I like this. It's pretty, it's frosted, it's simple with the lemon and a little bit of mint. Sparkling water is in a pretty glass. Sparkling water is in a pretty glass with meals that adds a little, class or fun to your mealtime. There's things you can do if you're having friends over, some, juices and maybe some adult beverages, though I do think these are actually sparkling waters. How about some fruit smoothies or veggie smoothies? I like the way they're in these shot glasses. It kind of makes it a little more fun to try different things. And that would be a neat thing to do for having guests over or even just for yourself as a treat. Things like popsicles, you can make your own or you can buy them, and there's all kinds. Some of them are lower sugar, some of them are fruits. So there's all sorts of things you can do. So in summary, water is necessary for almost every body function. And as we age, dehydration becomes a risk for us, mostly due to reduced sense of thirst, and also that we already start out with a lower amount of body fluid in us. The good rule of thumb is 8 glasses of water 8 times a day. 8 glasses of water of 8 ounces each per day. So making hydration a fun all-day event can be really helpful, building it into your routine of your day. And use fluids besides water if you don't particularly like water. If you like water, then just build it into your routine. I do want to be cautionary that you want to consult your doc, especially if you're taking, diuretics, or you have some heart disease like congestive heart failure, or you have edema. You want to talk to your doctor first before you do any changes in fluid, because some people actually have fluid restrictions. And so it's really important to discuss this with your doctor. So I thank you for listening to me. And if you have any questions, you can contact me at my email, which is listed right here. And I'll try my best to answer your questions. Okay, thanks a lot and take care. Bye-bye.